I feel the biggest thing that's lacking in the performance space, there's no continuity of training, right? And what people fail to realize when it comes to developing little Johnny, who's 8 years old, hitting home runs, right? They forget that true athletic development is always two-sided. You have the physical development, which we're going to talk a lot about that, like where the skill fit, speed training, strength training, conditioning, all that, right? So there's that physical element, but there's also a psychological element. Imagine if I were to sit my son down. I have a 10-year-old. I have a, well, think about that for a second. 10, 7, 5. But imagine if I sat down with my kids and I was like, hey, check this out, Jackson. We're going to talk about economics and taxes. And I started breaking down these like intense topics about like economics. It's going to go in one ear,
Out the other.
it's going to come out the other. And it's not because they're not smart, is because their psychology doesn't comprehend the same level of stress that me as an adult, like, hey, I have responsibilities, I got to do some adulting, right? They don't understand adulting because they're not there yet.
They don't have a need nor a want to learn it, so therefore they're not going to take it seriously either.
They're not going to take it serious, and
Yeah.
it just won't make sense.
Yeah.
So the same way there is physical athletic development. Athletic development to me is a scope of both of physical and mental. And saying, so like, for example, one of the things I've been studying for many years, I've probably been studying this for about 10 years, and this research has been around for, I want to say, long time, probably like 30 years. It's called LTAD, long-term athletic development. It's a developmental process of training used from the time a child's born until the time they're like 18 plus. And it just pretty much breaks down different phases of training, like learning how to move, learning how to learn, learning how to train, learning how to win. It just talks about the physical and the psychological development for every stage. Um, and what I want to do is I want to kind of bring to light that the same way I can't talk to my kids about taxes and economics at 10 years old, there's a time and place for that. There will be a time when it's like, hey, let's learn about economics a
Yeah.
little bit, right? But what I find is a lot of the coaching, and I don't want to say it's bad intentions. I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't think there's any dad out there. I don't think there's any coach, whether you're a team coach, a skills coach, a trainer. I genuinely believe 99%, 0.9 of coaches do not have bad intentions.
I'd be willing to bet, yeah, those 99.9% of coaches, that if you gave them the statistics, the facts, and showcased how the brain functions and all, and gave them the foundation of how to change what they needed to change into the new method, they'd all gravitate over towards it if they understood it.
If they understood, there's a lack
Yeah.
of education there, right? But unfortunately, the way we're approaching athletics, it's not, we're messing our kids up, right? It's kind of like I was talking to some of my boys, some of my high school seniors. Um, Shout out to those guys crushing it. And they were talking about process, right? We are talking about like having a process, like not just a process being like a hierarchy of things that you're doing to achieve an ultimate goal, right? And I told them, I'm very facetious, and I was telling them, I said, I think the big issue with sports is most people, it's the blind leading the blind, right? Everybody's trying to copy each other with a recipe that doesn't work. And the reason I can confidently say that is because a lot of these kids that I know that are trying to go to college, they're not getting offers, right? They work very, very hard. It's not because of their work ethic, right? And what they're doing is their mindset is like, if I just outwork my competition, I'm going to get a scholarship. And I said, look, the chances of you getting a D1 scholarship, like if you want to play baseball for UCLA, you want to go play football for USC, and you want to be their starting quarterback, I said, do you realize that you're competing against every quarterback in the country, including the two people who are already on the roster, or two or three? I said, your chances are like 1 in 30,000. So the chances of you going to college and getting this full ride at this university, and I was like, this is not me being negative. I said, this is just me being factual. Everybody knows this, right? And if you want to go professional, you might as well go start playing the lotto because you have a better chance of winning the lottery, right?
How many college teams are out there? D1 college teams?
I don't know off the top of my head, but if you compare that to the pool of how many high schools,
Yeah, there are too. Because then it's
right?
well, if you have 10,000 high schools, that's probably the actual number. But if you only have it's if the number ratio equal, that's like 10 colleges total. You got all those kids you compete just to get on one of those 10 teams, and then you got to beat 3 dudes who are already on that.
That are super seniors, right? They're
Yep. And if you
20,
had
21 years.
like 3 professional teams at state, now you have to get onto the professional teams. It's a whole
The
break.
math is crazy. The
Yeah.
math is crazy. So what I told the kids, I was like, listen, I said, everybody's copying each other, doing the same stuff, right? They're like, I'm just going to train harder. I'm going to lift harder. I'm going to do more hitting lessons than everybody else. Like, I'm like, and then at a certain point, I'm like, more is not the answer because if that was the formula that worked, then I would be like, hey, here's a formula where, you have a 1 in 10 chance of going to college. Like, but everybody's doing a formula that literally doesn't work. And one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast is because I wanted to give some insight into the process that does work. I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of really successful athletes. And like this year alone, my entire senior class has gotten an offer. 100%. Another ratio. That's a crazy stat. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying what is.
Yeah. No, you're speaking what is real.
Okay, here's another crazy stat. There's over a 90% chance of an athlete getting hurt and banged up throughout the year, where they have to miss games and miss tournaments, right? I haven't had a major injury among any of my athletes. I've had athletes who show up injured. That doesn't count. I'm talking about they stay with me, they stick to the process. I haven't had a major injury in over 10 years. Not many people can say that. So what I want to do, it's not that I have this like secret sauce, and because here's the thing about, I'm going to quiz you a little bit, David. No particular order. I'm going to name all the ingredients that are required in order to succeed at the highest level in any sport, whether you're 10 years old, 16, college, or even a pro athlete. I'm going to name any of these things, and then you tell me if I said anything that you've never heard of before. Okay? No particular order.
99.9%.
Okay? So, and then you guys too, they're going to be like, I'm going to name the ingredients of success. Okay?
Don't judge me.
Strength, speed, reactive power, rotational power, mobility, flexibility, conditioning, skill, mindset, sleep, nutrition, recovery. I don't know. That's what I could think of off the top of my head. Did I say anything that sounds foreign to you?
I think 2 of them.
Which one?
It was very beginning.
Strength?
No.
Let
Maybe you went so fast and I didn't quite hear it properly, but I
me do
think
this one more time.
yeah,
All right. Take two, you guys. We're live. Strength. We good with that?
we'll go with that one.
Strength, speed,
Got that one.
power,
Yep.
elastic power, rotational power,
No.
the ability to express power through rotation,
Probably
like throwing,
heard the words, but never.
throwing, or maybe if you're a baseball player, baseball guys, you guys know what I'm talking about. Softball too, we gotta give you some love. Okay,
Or maybe you did a long time ago, but that's like 7, 8 years ago.
that's
now.
all good. That's all
Yeah.
good. That's all good. Okay, but did I say anything that so you're like, oh, I've never heard of
No,
this?
it was
Speed, agility, right? Reaction time, balance. Like there's all these ingredients, right? So, and if I lay out all these ingredients, I don't think anybody goes, oh, I've never heard of speed. I've never heard like unless you're living under a rock, like everybody knows these are the ingredients we need, right? Work ethic, right? Consistency. Like this is nothing I'm saying is like foreign. And these are all things I have athletes do. The question is, why does it work for me and why is it not consistent across the board? I know there's a lot of great coaches out there, especially here in the Temecula Valley, that are also having equal success. So I want to give them a shout out. They'll probably be on the podcast. But the question is, if everyone's doing all the ingredients, why isn't everybody getting the same results? Why are the results so skewed? Why is it so, like, you could have two athletes, they're like, yeah, I do all those things, and then one athlete's getting crazy results and the other one's not. And this is an analogy I use with parents. I use it with athletes. You ever watch the cooking show, Gordon Gordon Ramsay,
Gordon Ramsay, which
Hell's
one?
Kitchen, any of them?
Because I know he has the ones where he does the competitions. He has the one where he goes over to
Okay,
the.
let's take one. Let's just take. I think all his shows tend to almost like be the same, right? So let's say, for example, if you ever watch any of his shows, I think it's Hell's Kitchen. I don't know which one's which, but he'll usually have a challenge, right? And then the camera will be like, we got this crazy world-class kitchen behind us, right? And they go, we have every ingredient possible, like the top end ingredients, everything you need to make like gourmet food. And then he'll give them a challenge, and he'll say, okay, I need you guys to go make me whatever dish. You got 1 hour, go. And then after the hour, that's the entertaining part. We know exactly what happens. He pretty much goes one by one, telling them how awful of a human they are. He throws some colorful words in there. He tastes their food and he goes, awful, too much seasoning. Next person, not enough seasoning. Next person, you cooked it too long. You overcooked it. Next person, you undercooked it.
Calls him an idiot sandwich.
Right? Next person, he's just like, and then us, we're the spectators, we're in the background watching the show, and we're just like, wait a second, like I would eat that. That looks delicious. I'm sure like whatever he thinks is disgusting, we probably think it's delicious, right? And then there's always gonna be that, and there's always that one person that he takes a bite, and then you see his eyes light up, and he's just like, the presentation, the mix of flavor, perfect, right?
Everything about it.
And he gives him that little card, and I haven't seen the show in a while, but how is it possible that these are some of the top chefs on the planet, and no one had like an advantage or a disadvantage? They actually all had an advantage because they had the top ingredients on the planet. They're like, dude, we have this kitchen with everything you need. Just go, you got an hour, make me this dish. And the reason one was successful versus the other one's not being up to his liking is because of micro dosaging. So micro dosaging is not that I'm missing an ingredient. If you're missing an ingredient as an athlete, like, oh, I just never do speed training, you got a really big problem. I never do mobility. I never do skill work. Like, that's a big problem. But I'm talking about the athletes who check all the boxes. I'm doing the strength training. I'm doing the speed work. I'm doing the skill. I'm doing the conditioning. I'm doing all those things, right? The reason these athletes are not successful is because they need more of something or less of something else.